Now, I've only seen Aquaman, so I cannot judge Wonka for myself. But this is a video on John Campea. He just comes back from vacation. That's why it's been lacking in Campea content. Vacation. And there's Campea show yesterday. Today is Tuesday. He's not doing a show today, but he did a show Monday on the 1st of January 2024, first of the new year to year 2024. So happy New Year, everybody. Hope you enjoy in 2024. This is a video on Wonka retaking the box office lead over Aquaman in the Lost Kingdom. And we're going to go over this and see what John Campea has to say. So make sure to like, share, subscribe, do all of that. And let's dissect what he has to say. I did not watch this. I did not watch this live stream. Did not watch the segment ahead of time, just to let you know. So I'm going in as fresh as a daisy, just as you guys. Unless you've seen this part already. If you haven't seen it, yeah, I'm going as fresh as you guys. But let's see what he has to say and see if there's anything interesting he has to say. Let's go.
To go see it again
11 minutes
when
long.
we took our trip to Canada this past week. A truly wonderful little film. Not my number one film of the year or anything like that, but a really charming, delightful little movie that I enjoyed quite a bit. Well, the next week,
cold in my room,
Aquaman came out, and of course, Aquaman took the number one spot because it was its first week. But surprisingly, now in its third week, and Aquaman's second, Wonka retook the number one spot. Wonka in its third week
retook
the number one spot away from Aquaman, and by a pretty decent little margin. Number one at the box office this weekend was Wonka, making $23.9 million. Aquaman Last Kingdom made 19.5 in its second weekend. Migration made 17 million. The Color Purple made 13, and rounding up the top five was Anyone But You at $9 million. Now, this to me is very interesting because number one, I didn't think Wonka would make all that much money anyway, in general. But so far, as we go over and take a look at this, Wonka is closing in on the $400 million mark.
Wonka, it's not a lot.
Which, at a $125 million budget, Forbes was forecasting that it needed to make between 250 and 300 million to break even. It is well into the profit. It's going to get into the hundreds of millions of dollars of profitability now, probably sometime this week. Then we see Aquaman, which is significantly behind Wonka at $258 million. Now, just for comparison's sake, though, the Marvels made 205. And by
okay. Aquaman obviously see there beat the Marvels. True. It's not going to catch Ant-Man and the Wasp in terms of box office. Maybe not Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, but it has already been the flat. It's actually the highest, most gross rated DC film of 2023. It's being the Flash, Shazam, and Blue Beetle in terms of box office numbers. It's not going to get anywhere close to where the first movie is, but apparently it might be on pace for at least 350 to 400 million. So not very good for the budget it has and all that stuff, but compared to all the other DC movies and some of the Marvel movies, I guess specifically the Marvels, it's better than something, right? Better than nothing. I mean, this makes the other comic movies look really, really bad compared to Aquaman. But let's continue watching on. Okay.
By the way, Aquaman is still going.
Yeah. Wonka's still going.
Whereas the Marvels has done its theatrical run. So all Aquaman is now doing is increasing its lead over the Marvels. Still, the last Aquaman movie made $1 billion.
Yeah, that's not getting that. And it's not get half of that.
I was very surprised. Rob, I'll be honest with you. I still really felt that Wonka might get some curious people out to see it.
Also,
but once Aquaman comes out,
Wonka and Aquaman are both Warner Brother movies, so the combined box office numbers from those two movies, Warner Brothers takes that in. Obviously, they're gonna look at it and be like, "Yeah, this is not." You're gonna look at it, be like from different movie budgets, right? And also, Color Purple is also Warner Brothers. But yeah, so.
And remember, I didn't think Aquaman would be another $1 billion film at all. But once Aquaman 2 came out, it would get that number one spot and probably hold that number one spot for a few weeks. But I don't know. Here it is. So, Rob, let me ask you this question. Is Wonka taking the number one spot back from Aquaman more of a commentary on Wonka and that it's quite good and people are going to see it? Or is it the disappointment and the failure of Aquaman 2? What do you think the bigger story is here?
I think it's a bit of both, but I mean, look, I think movies should first and foremost be judged on their own merits. Now, I haven't seen Wonka, but everybody I've to has liked it and enjoyed it. And you had the director of Paddington making it. So I think the fact that, and all the stuff I've seen from it, you know, we first saw clips at CinemaCon, it all looked good to me. And so I think Wonka's success, and it's also, I think it's probably, I put it in the same league as something like Mary Poppins Returns, even though it's a prequel. You know, you're making a prequel to a much beloved movie that's been around for 50 years. And I think people went to see it for its own sake. Another Warner Brothers movie. Aquaman, I think, failed to do what the first movie did for whatever reason. And, you know, when I saw Aquaman, I was like, you know,
we know why it failed.
It just was all over the place.
Cared.
I thought it was kind of a mess.
Really?
And from a storytelling standpoint, it wasn't satisfying. And whereas, you know, I was with you when I saw Aquaman 1. I loved Aquaman 1. I went into Aquaman wanting to like it. I don't think it was a particularly bad movie, but it was just a mess. It wasn't satisfying. And I think that's why it's not winning more acclaim at the box office or from fans, because it just wasn't as good of a film. It just felt like there was too many people sticking their fingers in that pie, whereas Wonka has been a far more satisfying experience for people.
I got to tell you, man,
sorry guys about the advertisements.
Like, I didn't hate Aquaman 2. Like,
no.
The way I described Aquaman 2 was like, it's got a lot of really silly stuff in it.
Yeah.
But the way I described it, I said, when something silly happens in a movie, there are one of two reactions it can cause. Either covering your eyes and cringing, or going, and, you know, maybe giggling a little. And I found, with the abundance of silly stuff, don't even get me going on the Martin Short Jabba the Hutt underwater fish character. Never mind about that. But I found there was a number of the silly moments in the film, and there were too many, but a number of the silly moments, instead of making me slap my forehead or cringe, I kind of went, okay, that's kind of cute. But so I didn't hate it. I didn't like it anywhere near as much as I liked the first Aquaman, though.
No.
Like, it's just a film that kind of lost its way. And, you know, I remember when I came out of it, Rob, a lot of people asked me, how was it as a conclusion to the DCEU? And I said, it's not a fair question to ask, because they never made this movie as a conclusion to the DCEU.
Exactly. It's not
right.
They never thought this was the conclusion to the DCEU.
Yeah, this wasn't made to be.
They made it just as another, you know, as another film. And did you see the post-credit scene with Patrick Wilson?
Yeah.
So I won't say what it was, but
see
a lot of people thought, well, that post-credit scene should have been something that just tied up the DCEU. But again, that wasn't the movie James Wan was making. So I didn't think it was fair to do that. But again, man, for me, when I look at these numbers and I see that Wonka, which, remember, when they announced this movie was coming, they started running the trailers for it. A lot of people said nobody was going to go see this. I believed in the film, but I also didn't think it was going to do great. But to see that it kind of lost the #1 spot to Aquaman, because Aquaman was debuting, and to retake it, I'm going to say that I think, Rob, this is more of a story about Wonka. That it's just, the word has gotten out that people really enjoy the film, and it's really quite delightful. It's a very different from the original, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, but
of course it is.
But it also fits in with it really nicely. You know? Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So with all your restrictions,
take no pleasure. I wanted Marvels to be good. I liked the original Captain Marvel more than most people did. It's just I just don't think it was the story they should have told. I would like to have seen the character of Captain Marvel. Forget what you think of Brie Larson. Have an Empire Strikes Back second movie. You know, a real banger, something where there's real personal stakes involved, and it told a galaxy-spanning story. That's not what we got, but I just, you know, I don't like to see them fail like this, and it's frustrating to see a movie like Aquaman. Look, we like The Flash, and I will die on that hill. I like The Flash. I bought the disc. I had a blast with it. It's a little goofy.
You're muted.
You know, it's all over the place, and having watched it a couple of times, but I liked it. You know, and I consider the DCEU is really Zack Snyder's, you know, beginning with Man of Steel, and maybe in a way you could say the Zack Snyder's Justice League is really the conclusion of the DCEU. But I think that, you know, DC has been better. The Christopher Nolan trilogy, The Batman, Joker. I mean, and I think that even though they're trying to build a cohesive DC universe, I think we're going to get a different feel to superhero movies. They have to do something that feels different.
100%.
And I think you're going to go back to and like the Batman feels different. When you watch the Batman, Matt Reeves' Batman, it feels like its own thing. And I think that's what they have to do, because they can't just repeat these. You have to feel differently about movies than we do, because the current crop of comic book films is just not working.
No,
it's not exciting.
Yeah, I'm going to end it here. He's right. I'm going to just say this. James Gunn has to make him and his team, staff and writers, other directors, whoever's going to be on board, when the current people who's on board with Stafford, they're the universe that they're creating. It's gonna be different than Marvel. It's gonna be different Marvel. The tone, not the tone, but the structure has to be. The structure of the films need to be different than Marvel. What you see on the Marvel films, sometimes Marvel likes to do things a little differently, but most of the films are very similar. But DC has to do something different than that. Also, they have to do something different than the previous universe, the DCEU. It's gonna have to be different, because if it's not different, it's all really the same stuff. You're gonna have the same problems over and over again, and people are just not gonna go. So, Creatures Commando is the first project, right? But it's an animation. I think to me that's not the test. It's not the real test. With James Gunn, it's Superman Legacy is the test. We'll see from there. Let's see what they have to say.
And that was another big story, I think, of 2023 that we didn't touch on before. Is just that not only did a lot of the comic book movies fail at the box office, comic book movies in 2023, and to a degree, a lot of them in 2022, weren't great.
Nope.
Like even a lot of the ones like, say, like a Black Adam, or something like a Shazam 2, or something like the Marvels. Yeah, even some of these films that I kind of liked. Only 1 or 2 out of the past 8 or 9 did I think were great. And if you just go back a couple of years ago, you get 8 or 9 out of 10 that were great, and then 1 or 2 that weren't so good. And it's that's another. But anyway, I talk about that a lot. So guys,
all right,
what do you?
All right, okay, all right. Oh, there we go. So yeah. They're both Warner Brother movies, same with Color Purple. I'll just say this. Wonka's doing well, I guess, for what it is, but it's not making magnificent money. I know it's a $100 million budget, so it is making a profit, but it's not like making lots of money. Aquaman, obviously, is not making lots of money, but it is going to be one of the highest. The Guardians, I think The Guardians is the highest box office movie this year. I think Ant-Man might be two. And I think this movie might be, Across the Spider-Verse might be 3, but that's animated. But I think this movie might end up being 4th. This movie is going to beat out the Marvel, Shazam. It's on pace to beat out Shazam, the Marvels, the Flash, and Blue Beetle. And it's on pace to maybe beat out Black Adam. So yeah, obviously they're probably not happy with what they're going to get. The results are going to get with Aquaman. They're probably a little bit satisfied with Wonka. You're okay with Color Purple. Maybe this, I don't know. That's just got released too. I know that's highly received film. It's just not making the money either. even if release 3 Warner Brother films, and it's not. I could guarantee you by the end of the theater ones, I don't know if all these 3 films will combine to make $1 billion. $1 billion worldwide. I don't know. Maybe. Well, Aquaman and Wonka make it to combine those 2 films when they're theater ones over maybe to about 600-700 million combined, and see what Color Purple could get. But I don't know. Maybe billion. Maybe for 3 films. I don't know, in 1 month. I don't know, man. Yeah. So yeah. Your thoughts, guys.